This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. Mission to
Happy Halloween, you Deadites.
Happy Halloween.
You Necronomicon reading
Is
fools.
this one a horror movie?
I don't know. It's
I
got
don't know.
NC-17. It's not scary, but it is gross. Maybe.
It is
right.
gross.
Yeah.
Lots of spraying of things and
Yeah, you got some blood in
bits,
there.
Blood.
Yep.
some skeleton
Zombies,
bits.
skeletons.
Yeah.
So this week this is the third week, because we're jumping around here in the edit. The third week of Halloween movies this year. We're in the 90s now, 1992. This is the third movie in the Evil Dead series, Army of Darkness, directed by Sam Raimi and starring the always great Bruce Campbell. Let's get 20 seconds on the clock here. I'm going to go first this time.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite horror movies. It is almost perfect. It is nonstop, front to back, amazing. This movie almost gets there. It's about 70% there, but then I think there's some issues with the end that kind of drag a little too long. But I mean, there's some sequences that are top notch in this, and it's definitely one of my go-tos for Halloween.
All right.
There you go.
I'll go second. Fuck it.
There you go.
Go, TC.
I didn't really get into this one. There's some cool stuff. There's some funny scenes. There's, it's hard to take seriously, so you can't hate on it that much. Didn't dislike it, didn't like it, and kind of didn't pay attention all of the time.
All right.
It's the attention meter for TC.
Was
It's,
low.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did see them swipe I did like the little skeleton slap.
Yeah.
Bit.
Yeah, it's
They do the Three Stooges on it.
That was great.
Yeah. All right, John.
Army of Darkness. Just as like a bunch of teenagers made this film, and they're just a bunch of geeks, and they're just having a really good time. And maybe sometimes somebody should say, "Hey, that's enough of that," but then they just keep going. So it just seems like everybody was having a good time here. That it's got to be one of the longest sort of like ending action sequences that I got a little tired of, but it was fun.
And it was edited down. If you watch the director's cut, it is even longer.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It almost got to where it's one of those things
Wow.
that's so long you start getting a little bored, but then you start getting to like it again.
It's only because there's some funny stuff in there where like there's just some good lines where he's talking to the girl that turned into a zombie, and she's like, "You loved me once," and he's like, "Baby, you got real ugly."
I know, yeah, that's
Like, that's pretty good.
That's funny.
Or when he hits him in the head and his head starts spinning around and his eyes spin like pinballs. And you're like,
I know.
but yeah, even in the commentary track, they were talking about getting bored during that scene.
Yeah, we're bored too.
Yeah. And they're like, if you want to really torture yourself, watch the director's cut because this part is even longer.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So they're fully aware of, they're silly people anyway. It's Sam and Ivan Raimi and Bruce Campbell are in the commentary. We're going straight into trivia, but I'm going to back off here a second.
That's fine.
I mean, I'm all right. Let's get this one out of the way. You know what I
Let's get
mean?
it out of the way. I just want to say that, like, this movie has, and I think, I don't know if this will make sense. You didn't love Evil Dead 2, even though you said you laughed a lot at it.
Mm-hmm.
This movie starts out really strong, and it stays strong through the scene with the 3 books when he's by himself adventuring out. There's like 5 really good scenes. The first one's like the pit scene is great because there's like so many funny parts in that scene. Like the action is pretty good. There's inventive camera work, some good low budget makeup work. The shot of him jumping up and get the chainsaw on his stump is just like one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
That scene's great. The next scene is, what is it? The one like at nighttime where he's getting fed grapes with all the girls, and then like the witch woman comes up. Some pretty funny stuff in that scene. Got some good frantic action. The scene where the windmill scene's probably the best scene in the movie with the tiny creatures and all the weird shit that happens there. And then like the graveyard scene. That's like 4 scenes maybe. But then as soon as he gets back to the castle, the rest of the movie is basically one really long stop motion fight scene that is slower because they have all these effect shots. Like they can't be frantic like they are.
They want to show
in the
you all
beginning.
these things.
They want to show it to you. They spent time doing it.
I mean,
there's a
look
lot
at
of
this.
second
Look
unit
how cool
stuff.
this is, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of second unit stuff going on because they're doing stop motion. So like the stop motion animators are getting these long shots and they're like, well, we have to like put that against the background, so we have to use all of this.
Yeah.
You know, we can't just like be like bam, bam, bam,
It
bam.
took Bobby
and keep
2
you-
weeks to do this. You're gonna show it, damn it!
Right. And I think it kind of brings the movie down to like a slower pace, which doesn't really work.
You're right. I totally agree with that.
And also, Bruce Campbell becomes a hero towards the end, and like he's unstoppable. He's no longer this clumsy fool that like somehow lucks out and like does all this stuff. He becomes very competent.
Yeah, because he's got to be a hero because he's just got to be. They've got to be defeating these waves of bad guys. Sort of becomes very video gamey kind of too. And you're right, that does sort of change his character then at the end, which I guess maybe you could kind of think of that as, hey, that's kind of a neat arc for him. But nah, it's more fun when he's getting the shit kicked out of him.
The thing is, it's not though, because
so
it's at the very
that.
end. If you watch the original ending, are you aware of the original ending?
Oh no, there was a different ending. No,
yeah, they tested the original ending, and Sam Raimi had full control of this movie, full creative control during the making of it. It tested so poorly because of the ending. The studio grabbed the movie, reshot the ending where he's in the supermarket, and put it out into the theater.
They went, no, bad director.
Yeah,
no.
but then Sam had somehow Sam also had control over his parts. So when this movie was screening around the country, both versions were showing, and there was no way to tell which version you were going to see.
Oh,
wow.
So it's kind of just like
so it's like you
don't
just
know.
showed up and hoped for the best, or you didn't know in general and you just saw whatever you saw.
Right.
Wow.
But just to kind of the train of thought I had, John, is that he had an arc, but he didn't, because the original ending, they bury him in the cave with his car and they give him a potion, and he has to drink 6 drops of this potion and he'll wake up back. Like they bury him in the cave, so he's protected and stuff. 6 drops, and then he'll wake up in his own time. He takes like 5 drops and gets distracted.
He screws
because
it up.
he gets distracted because like it starts crumbling. He's like, oh, and then he counts 5 again and then 6. So he takes 7 drops. And then he wakes up and it's like the future and the world has ended. Like it's just a destructive, like everything is dead. Like
awesome.
When he gets out of the cave.
Why is that bad? How is that bad?
Because it was dark. Because it was dark.
Oh,
and
man.
the audiences are like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It's sad. So they took it away and reshot it. But just to say, he's still a bumbling idiot, really.
Yeah.
In the original version of it. So he doesn't actually like get better. It's just
Right,
odd.
that's true. Right, yeah. Because like in the end, like when he's like at Kmart, rest in peace,
Smart.
Kmart.
That's smart.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even matter. Kmart no longer exists. But he's a hero there, right? He's just like, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. I would have sort of liked it being darker. I'd have been like darker, but it would have been nice to have it be dark where he's in this like, he's in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, but he's like, fuck it, let's go. He just go be a badass in that.
They had a plan to run with that, and he was going to get a bunch of robots to try to defeat the Deadites with him.
Yeah,
that was in their plan. But what they had to do is, since they with the TV show that came out in 2015, they decided to go with the theatrical cut ending as canon, and that's where the TV show starts, with him being kind of a housewares.
Yeah,
housewares.
Guy.
Yeah, I mean, that was funny though. I mean, you know,
it was.
It's pretty funny.
Campbell is
throughout.
so awesome.
It's a good way to end the movie.
But I don't.
Hail to the king, baby.
He just fits this role so well. It's so great, and he's just having a good time. But this is like, I don't know.
They weren't having a good time. I'm glad that came across to you, John.
It seems like he's having fun.
tortured the whole time.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi's working his ass off, being stressed out about whether or not it's good. Ivan's on set worrying about the script, worrying about whether or not the character makes any sense. And then Bruce is getting tortured, physically tortured the entire movie.
Well, that's
because Sam loves torturing his friends.
That's like, that's what always happens. But that's a little upsetting, because that's one way I was enjoying this film, as I was telling myself, I bet they had a lot of fun.
They're having
doing
a blast doing it.
That's too bad. No.
The thing is, though, they're sarcastic motherfuckers. So, like, during the entire commentary track, they were making fun of each other and saying like negative things about each other, and then talking shit on the movie. So it was kind of hard to tell how much of it was like them
banter?
just being assholes.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Just doing what they were doing anyway. They were probably talking shit, making fun of each other as they were doing the movie.
Right. But they did make a lot of sense with some of their criticisms towards the end, which I shared. Just like it went on too long, like the character doesn't make sense, all that stuff they talked about.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's there.
I mean,
They
it
weren't
didn't
lying
really
about
need
that.
to make sense. The whole movie didn't make that much sense, really. Yeah, it was.
Made sense enough. You knew what was going on.
I mean, it was loosely Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, time travel.
Sure.
You know.
I was like, this is just the White Walkers, but they dressed it up nicely, you know? They're coming.
That's where they got it from. Army of Darkness.
That's right.
Yep.
What else? Is there anything else? You guys should, if you're...
There's
I don't know,
nothing
John,
else.
TC's not going to watch this again. John, are you a huge
Never.
fan of this movie? There's a cult following to this movie, and I'm kind of in it, I think. I'm one of the people who likes this movie a lot.
Yeah, you're not really a cult if you say you're in a cult. I don't know. I don't think it works.
I think he's just a nerd.
I'm just a nerd.
Yeah.
I like this movie.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times. This has got to be like top 20 movies I've seen the most in my lifetime, I think.
I would
if
never
you really
watch
want to be
this
the
one
cult,
again.
that's not how you say you're in a cult. You don't be like, oh, maybe this is a cult and I'm in it. No, you say, this is a fucking movie, the best movie ever. Everybody should. That's when you're in
That's
the cult.
when you're actually in the cult? Okay.
Yes. So
I just want to be in the cult, guys.
You're
That's
cult
all
How could you
adjacent
think?
is
How
what
could
you
you
are.
think that this isn't the best movie of all time? I want to know. How can you think? How can you? That's when you're in the cult.
That's right.
But no, John, you haven't seen this 1,000 times?
No, I've seen it like maybe 3 times now. I think. I think I agree that Evil Dead 2 is a lot better. Well, it's just different. This is less horror, more action comedy with horror elements. And again, it's fun. I like it. I'm glad that it's a good companion to 2.
It's almost like the ideas don't jive. It's kind of like they smashed Evil Dead 2 with like The Princess Bride, and it doesn't really work that well.
That's a really good one, man. That's
good.
That
And
is
it's
so good because I was trying to figure out what comedy that it made the most sense to compare it to, and I couldn't do it. And that's damn on. That's spot
That's
on.
it?
Yeah,
I got
that's
it.
But you don't have the ensemble, which you just got Bruce. Like everybody else is kind of like, eh. Yeah, it's so it would have been
It's
nice
only
if there
not
was some
ensemble
other
because the other actors are not doing a very good job.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That could be.
But it is kind of overacted and stuff. Like, I don't know what good would be in this movie.
No, it just maybe, I don't know. The Princess Bride was just fun because you had these interesting characters and they each had their own thing that was going on, and it was just, and then they that's part of what made that.
But that's
movie
kind
so
of like
fun,
a series of set pieces in a fantasy land with kind of set-looking sets,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Trying to be comedic, trying to be dramatic,
Right.
trying to have some
And
suspense,
action,
in a light kind of way, like this movie does.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason this movie feels so weird too is because Sam Raimi his deal to make this movie was to make it PG-13. So most of the movie they were just like, oh yeah, this will be easy, PG-13, no problem. First cut they sent back, they got NC-17. They're like, what? Fuck.
Is it? Jesus.
Is that what the director's cut is? Can you watch that?
Yeah,
version,
you can see it.
Yeah.
There's one specific shot that made it NC-17, they said, and it's not that bad these days. It's
really?
It's when he's in the pit and he beheads the deadite in the pit. There's an additional shot of like blood going on the wall, and it's like it's pretty thick, I guess you might say. But it's I mean, I was surprised that one shot made it NC-17.
Sorry, with that kind of viscosity, we have to move you up from an R. Sorry.
I mean, the Saw sequels are all R now. Like everything, it doesn't matter anymore. They'll never be an NC-17 again. I don't think.
probably.
Terrifier's rated R.
Only if you have explicit sex. That's probably the only way you get
That's
it
right. Blue is the warmest color, I think, was NC-17, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. That's sex. You can't have it. Not in this country. No way.
Murder, death, whatever, killing, maiming, mutilation.
All for it.
It's all good.
Yep.
No limit.
USA.
That's right.
But the cut is actually, so the director's cut is totally worth a watch if you're a fan of this movie, because not only there's like additional scenes and the ending is different, so that's fun, but there's also different takes for different things. Like some of the punchlines hit differently in the director's cut. It's weird. So they didn't just like cut things out. They replaced takes for no reason. Like it doesn't change the pace of the scene really. They just like added a take.
Just bored. I don't know.
I guess. But that was fun because it was kind of like watching a totally different version of the movie. Like if they got to make the movie twice, this is what the other version was.
Yeah, sounds like a real good time.
It doesn't happen like that, TC. It's all I'm trying to say. They don't normally do that. Usually it's the same take in every different cut of the movie.
I know. They just like scenes that were left out or extended stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like different parts.
There's a sex scene in the director's cut.
If you look at it in minute 64, you'll see.
It's exactly what I'm trying to say, TC.
All right.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Is it a funny sex scene? How do they do the sex scene? Or
No, that's why they cut it, because they tried to. It was too sappy.
Oh, that's,
There was some like partial nudity, and then like he put a blanket on her when they were standing outside on top of the castle together. It was all just totally unnecessary and sappy.
Okay. Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Did you hear any Danny Elfman in there? The theme song. Danny Elfman.
Yeah, he did. I saw his name in the credits. He did
it for free.
March. Oh, did he?
Yep.
Aw.
And so did the other composer who did most of the other music, Joe something, I forget. Also did it for free. This movie was very low budget. A lot of the extras were friends. There was a producer in there. One of their musician friends were in there. Ted Raimi was in there 4 times. I think he got killed 3 times.
Wow.
He was in there. Bruce Campbell's dad was in there, and he was in every cut. And Bruce was proud about that in the commentary track. He's like, I tried to cut this out. They didn't think it was a good action shot, but I was like, that's my dad. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's staying in.
See, this movie has that feel. Like, it's like they're just buddies doing what they want to do.
Yeah. Apparently, though, it was just very hot and stressful. Very long shoot. And low budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
They look fun. That's why they're professionals.
Mm-hmm.
I know. That's so true. Like, we go to our nice cushy jobs and we sit. It's like, all right, 9 hours. All right, I think I've got it. I'm tired. I'm going to go.
We get to complain.
And then they're on set for like 15 hours, sweating buckets. And it's like, it's all right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Would you guys recognize Bridget Fonda if you saw her?
No.
I saw her name in the cast, and I did not recognize who she
was Linda from the beginning compilation with his girlfriend in the woods when they were like recapping Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
I didn't recognize her either. She had a short haircut, but yeah. Bridget Fonda. Look at that. The studio didn't want Evil Dead in the title. They don't know why, but they didn't want it. One of their alternate titles, if they had allowed it, was The Medieval Dead. Which
That's actually not bad.
Yeah,
I like that.
Not bad at all.
Yeah. But they didn't want like it associated with the Evil Dead franchise because they wanted a PG-13 movie. They wanted, something kind of restarting it and having it be more kid-friendly so they could make some money.
I guess Sam didn't care. Like, I thought he had full control, but again, I guess it was sort of illusionary full control because they also changed
he had full
his
control
ending.
when they were making it, and once they had the final cut, they're like, now we're going to take control of it.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, you did a good job.
Right.
But we're going to call it something else, and we're going to
But then Sam must have grabbed the original cut and was like, fuck you guys, I'm distributing this too.
Yeah.
It's a race.
Oh, man.
But it does seem like he didn't care. Like, he couldn't have really have been going for a PG-13. There's nudity in this movie. In the cut, the director's cut, there's the sex scene, and then in the every cut, there's the scene of the naked slaves being like pulled across the screen by the skeletons. There's a shit ton of blood. There's a scene where blood shoots up out of the hole. Like, that's not PG-13. He probably was just like yesing them the entire time. He's like, I don't fucking care what they say. I'm making this movie.
Like, I know you guys don't care what I think. We don't care what you think. It's okay. I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do, and you guys can take it and do what you do, and we'll just go
do
home.
other things.
They cut out a lot of stuff. It was 15 minutes longer in the director's cut, and all that cutting just came from a process of they got the NC-17, they took out the one scene, they got an R, they cut it down some more, got an R, cut it down some more, got an R, and eventually we have to release this, and they just released it. Wow. All they were doing was chopping out parts to try to get an R, shortening bloody parts, shortening other things, getting rid of the sex scene, just trying to get a PG-13. They didn't get it, and they're just like, we have to release it.
They never did? They just released it R?
Yep.
Nice.
Wow.
This is a fucking mess. And they pushed the release of this movie too, and Bruce was hoping this movie would push his career, and they released it like a year after they promised in the beginning, and he basically sat around on his ass for a year waiting for this movie to get released so he could use it on his resume to get more work.
Damn.
Poor Bruce.
Yeah, he aged a year. That does suck.
It does. Hey, that's like 7 years.
That's like a long time. That's right.
Yeah. The scene where Bruce is getting dragged through the city square, Sam Raimi ordered all the extras and people on set to throw real potatoes at Bruce because he wanted the reactions to be real. And he told them, don't worry, throw them as hard as you can. Bruce can take it.
Yeah, it's Bruce. He likes it.
He likes it.
What a gig, huh?
This is their relationship.
Things you have to do to be in a movie.
Yeah. So when he had the stump for a hand, they it was just his hand was in there, obviously. They put a metal plate around his wrist so it wouldn't bend, and they thought that was like the biggest part of the trick, but then he hit it as much as possible, and then he bent his arm a lot. He doesn't actually stand there with his arm straight where you can see the stump ever in the movie. He always has it bent in some weird way so you can't compare it to his other arm or to the length of his body.
Smart.
So it worked. It's pretty good.
It worked, yeah.
Yeah,
Really
some practical, very uncomfortable. Wasn't the worst. I mean, all the water stuff they did was the most uncomfortable. He was covered in like shit the entire movie. There was a scene when he was it was like in the last battle scene. His cape had like a pin in it, and he threw an extra. It was like a stunt. He threw an extra off like one of the walls, and the pin on his cape scratched his face pretty bad. And he had to go to the emergency room and get stitches. And he walked into the emergency room, and the doctor looked at him and he's like, "Which one's the real one?"
Oh shit! Yeah, he's like, "What do I do here?"
Which one is it?
So we had to point out, and he got a bunch of stitches. And then as he was leaving the doctor's office, he's like, "That makeup doesn't even look that good." And he's like, "You couldn't tell which one it was." Fuck you, doctor. And then he went right back to set to continue shooting. And with the stitches on, didn't matter because all the shit he had on his face. It was fine.
Wow.
Scrappy. Real scrappy. They built that pit stage or pit set on a stage. It was actually like a pool of water, and apparently the water stunk real bad and was real cold, so it was like totally miserable filming there. All those flips and stuff with that person in the suit was a gymnast who also was an actor and like a stunt person. So they found someone very specific for this role. So it was the one woman doing all like the punching and kicking and acting as the Deadite in the flips and stuff, all the same person. That's pretty good.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. What else? Oh, they had a face mask, a plastic face mask template for Bruce's face, where they had little cutouts, different phases of the project. So any given day, they knew they would be shooting at this period of time. They'd put on like the 2 weeks into this adventure mask and draw all the scars on through the template. That way, like they would add linearly throughout the movie.
Wow,
it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you could definitely tell because I was counting the little scratches on his face, right? Very important to the plot of the movie to make sure all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised they did that because in Evil Dead 2, there were scenes where it cut to the next scene and he'd just be drenched in blood for no reason. You're like, I don't care. This movie's out of control. It's fine.
Yeah.
The shot of Bruce's character falling into the puddle head first, that was really Bruce. Done in one take.
Wow.
Pretty serious fall.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
He's a tough dude. He did a lot of his own stuff here.
He's like it's sort of like the equivalent of the person who really wants to be in acting, but they're just like having you there and treating you like a porn star or whatever, really. But you really want to act, so you're willing to do whatever.
He's like Johnny Knoxville almost. He's just slightly better looking and
movie star. Bruce, okay, we just gotta do this. You want to be an action star?
I'll do it. Sounds good.
Yeah.
The scene where he's running through the woods away from the evil. And the camera is like in front of his face and he's running towards the camera and he's kind of just like running and he's like running through the woods and things are hitting him. He's running in place in the middle of nowhere and people have branches on the sides of him. They're just whacking him in the face with the branches.
He can take it, right?
He can take it.
He can take it.
That's a great special effects shot.
It's going to be big. It's going to be great for my career. That's right, Bruce. It is totally
Is this going to look good? Shut up,
Bruce.
Smack.
It's going to look awesome. But we got to hit you really hard, okay? It's
got to sell. We got to sell it to the audience.
Yeah, that's right. It had to be potatoes. Yep. Got to be potatoes, Bruce. Jesus.
Mind the face.
Rocks. We're not using potatoes. Are a little soft, so it's okay. Yeah.
Can we boil it first? No. They have to be raw.
Bruce, it won't be real, and your career won't take off. All right.
The scene where he like flips the shotgun around a bunch of times and puts it in the back of his the pouch he has. There's no pouch there. The camera zooms in enough where somebody can crawl up behind him at a screen and they just hold the shotgun against his back.
Oh, wow. Really?
And they get smacked in the head with it. But yeah. Cool.
I mean, he does like that part kind of slowly.
He does.
And then the person just pushes it against his back.
That's true.
Keeps it in frame.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Just so many little bizarre things.
What a
they
good
do.
little idea, though, to make that happen.
Because it'd be too hard to like. There's a lot of extras. You got to zoom in. He's got to flip it a bunch of times. If he screws this up, then you got to do it again. No way.
True.
The miniature part was probably the most complicated special effects in the movie. They had a lot of the time it was like they duplicated Bruce. They had extras in Bruce like helmet makeup things. So like sometimes you can kind of see it looks a little different. They're just different people with like Bruce makeup with the chins and the basically just the chin and the nose maybe.
Funny.
But the shot where he throws the fork at the miniature Bruce and he's running away and he gets pinned to the wall. That was actually, they said it was the most dangerous part of the movie for the shoot because it was a giant fork and it was on wires and they filmed it backwards. So like where that scene ends, where that shot ends is the beginning and he has to backwards act it because he's in it and then it gets pulled away from him and he has to run backwards towards the wall.
Oh, fuck.
And they just reverse the footage and that's the shot
That's
in the
how it
movie.
worked. Yeah,
That's a great sequence.
Yeah. They talked about the steaming pot of coffee. They're just like, what was that? And they're like, I think it was some kind of chemical. You're like, yeah. How are you doing? He's like, I'm not doing so. I think I'm, they were just worried about killing him. And he's like, it was probably just dry ice. He's like, you're supposed to drink that? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? It looked great.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions.
Did you recognize the cinematographer name?
No.
Bill Pope, the guy who shot The Matrix.
Oh, wow.
And who is now one of the most prominent cinematographers that lives in Hollywood.
So he got it out of his
free
system.
too?
He got it out of his system.
He did. This movie was shot great.
I know, I'm just saying.
For low budget?
He got the low budget out of his system.
That's true.
Yeah.
This might have been the one he did right before The Matrix, because this was 92. Matrix was 90.
Yeah, it was his
It
transition.
was 98, maybe? So there must have been some more stuff there.
Wow. How long ago was that, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, pretty long. But you could tell this guy had some skill. This is a low-budget movie, and it looks pretty good.
No, it does.
For this is a movie where the chains where they're being dragged are made out of plastic. They're not even rubber. They're plastic. That's the budget of this movie.
Wow.
And it doesn't look that bad.
No.
It looks pretty
I didn't
good.
notice. Add a couple sound effects in.
Yeah. I love the sound effects.
There's some bad ones, like when they had babies giggling
good.
and they're like 6 years old and you hear like babies chuckling and I was like, that's not the right sound. That's not the right sound at all.
I always feel stupid at the end where the evil Ash as a skeleton realizes he's about to die and his head opens up and the train whistle makes a sound. Yeah. It makes me laugh every fucking time it happens. And I feel stupid for laughing at it, but it makes me laugh.
It's an easy laugh.
Yeah. So they must have just been fucking around in the sound booth being like, what works? What works?
Yeah,
what works?
What can we do?
Whistle,
what can we have?
hilarious.
What do you have in the list? Yeah. Pull that. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
The windmill scene is very much expanded in the director's cut. Probably the most expanded scene except for the end. And some of the parts are pretty good. Like there's some really good special effects shots. It makes more sense. Like when he slips and falls, there's shit on the ground. You don't get to you don't know what that shit on the ground is, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a part earlier where they dump like a bucket of like animal fat on his head, and he ends up actually sitting on the grill too. Like it's a much longer scene. It's much more linear. And same thing with the ending action sequence. You don't really know where people are all the time, but if you watch the extended one, they made it very linear, so you can see them going through the castle and getting up to all the spaces. So it's longer, and there's not like anything really that much more interesting than you already see, but it is more linear,
more cohesive.
Yeah. So if you like that, it's fine. The scene right at the end of the windmill sequence when Bruce has an eyeball on his shoulder and he ends up running outside and there's like a second guy attached to him. Mm-hmm. That's like just a rig. Like he had control of the other guy's arm and his arm was inside the chest of the other guy. So he was just like punching himself in the face and like doing all the head acting and like everything was just Bruce doing all that stuff.
I mean, it's just, I can't even imagine it in person watching him do that. Like, how do you not laugh?
Yeah, that shit was so, I mean, that scene it's amazing. It's out of control. Different quote at the end in the director's cut for the when he shoots his bad self in the face and he says, good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the director's cut, he goes, I ain't that good.
Really? It's a lot different.
It's a lot different. It's a lot less interesting.
I agree. But that whole sequence where he's talking to the guy is a lot longer too. It's like over twice as long.
Wow.
The evil Ash. And some of it's pretty good. Some of the stuff they cut out is good. So if you're a fan, totally worth watching. They're just like, yeah, they both have their own good stuff in it. What do we got? Oh, when Bruce's head was when they're burying the skeleton guy, and they get dirt thrown on Bruce's face. Guess who threw the dirt?
Who?
Sam.
Oh.
His best bud, the director. He stepped in And he's like, I have to do this. I have to throw it on Bruce's face. Whenever there was a chance to torture Bruce during the course of this movie, Sam would step in out of the director's chair and be like, this is me. He's like Tarantino or something. He's like, I'm going to choke her. These would be my hands. This is great. So the whole reason he does movies is to torture people, I think. 3 hours of makeup for Evil Ash. Kind of long, but it's not the longest, but still that's a decent amount. Harryhausen is the big influence for the end. He is the stop motion guy from way back when, like Clash of the Titans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The scenes where he's fighting a puppet of his skeleton self. Mm-hmm. It was all real, obviously. Some of the shots were real. It was attached with 19 cables with a bunch of different people pulling on him. Wow. And Bruce called it people on set called it Skeletor, and he called it Drunkator because like it was out of control and he was afraid of getting hit by it just because like it would be whipping around all the time. So all that frantic movement was him standing next to this thing, and it's all practical. So like he was in harm's way during those scenes.
The old days.
Acton, California. Is that near UTC?
That's a good question. Not sure.
The castle was filmed in Acton. The forest scenes were in Bronson Canyon and Vasquez Rocks Natural Area Park, which I think are right outside LA.
Natural Area Park, huh? That sounds like processed cheese food.
Yeah.
They did all this stuff in and around LA for the most part. They complained about the forests. They wanted denser forest, but they're like, we weren't willing to go far to film
so
this.
You didn't go to a forest, you had to go to the Natural Area Park.
Yeah. They filmed the last scene reshoots in Malibu, just at a lumber store over 3 nights. They're just like, hey, can we use your store? And they're like, yeah, fuck it, it's Hollywood.
Why not? Yeah.
The chainsaw, 3 more things. Chainsaw smoke effect was just tobacco smoke pumped through a pipe up all of his clothes into the chainsaw and out a hole in the chainsaw.
Wow.
Somebody back there with a big hookah or something.
Yeah, I don't know. So just a bunch of people smoking cigarettes blowing into the pipe? I don't know.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and the last piece of trivia, the Japanese title of this movie is Captain Supermarket.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Pretty good. And I got a picture I'll send you guys.
I think Denny liked this more than
Captain Supermarket.
More than we did. Yeah.
Oh, you think, TC? You think? I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, TC, and I was watching it this time, and I was like, ooh, what have I done? It's like, I still love it, but I was not.
It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's movie, 2 in a row.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is.
Denny, you're losing your edge.
You lost your chops, man. Yeah.
Well, I'm running out of good horror movies to pick. There aren't that many. We've most of the good ones.
Yeah, we've seen them all.
Yeah.
That's right.
What about
That's
we can talk about some other possibilities, but we've already got our 3. But if you want to do,
but I'll say that. So, like, I typically watch Evil Dead 2 every other year, and it makes me laugh every time, and it's impressive the entire time, and I feel positive leaving watching that movie every single time. I'm just saying how this movie compares to someone who's a huge fan. This movie, I barely laughed at out loud. I know all the lines way too much. And the ending is just, gets really boring towards the end. And I don't think I'd ever noticed that before because I haven't watched this movie since we started doing this podcast, and I became overly critical of every second of the movie.
And now nothing is fun.
Right. Now nothing is great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just sitting there like, why is this boring? Oh, yeah, because they're doing the same thing for 15 fucking minutes. How long is this fucking scene? Jesus Christ.
Like, I get the joke.
Yeah.
The joke's over. Yeah.
That's about it.
All right.
Top 250.
Would you put this in there?
I would not.
Nah.
I would not.
No.
But I don't mind seeing it again once in a while.
No, it's fun. It's a goofy.
I won't ever watch it again.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I wasn't that mad at it.
Okay.
And it's hard to be anything but, kind of like, what is this? Not,
And you laughed.
You can't hate it too much. And I laughed.
Okay.
There were times where I laughed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's all you can ask for.
What are we doing after this now?
Night is it?
This
Well,
is
that-
Nightmare on
we're
Elm
doing-
Street after this. So we're going to
but then after that,
Oh,
because we
sorry.
already supposedly did
No,
that.
it switched.
So we're out of order here, folks. The 2000, should I spoil it for you guys? 2002 movie The Ring.
Oh, I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that.
Not the original, not the Japanese
Ringu.
version.
No, the Gore Verbinski version.
I've never
The
seen
Ring.
this.
I'm down
I've
with
never
that.
seen this. So I'd be
You never seen
interested to
that?
see- No.
Wow, that was a phenomenon when it was
yeah.
for I think maybe me and you's age, TC.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone I knew saw that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if The Ring?
The Ring.
Yeah.
Or Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember. I'm actually kind of excited because it reminds me of that. Yeah, so long ago. Like, will this stand up?
Yeah.
Or
I
will
haven't
just
seen it
suck?
since the early 2000s either.
I haven't seen it then either.
They just released
Exactly.
it in 4K, and it actually, like, right now when we're recording, it's coming out in 5 days, so it's like brand new 4K
All right.
master and everything. So
Well,
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's do The Ring.
yeah. All right,
All
but
right.
for next week,
Sweet.
Nightmare on
The
Elm
Ring.
Street.
Sweet.
All right,
All right,
Later.
later, guys.